If you don't like the world you live in, you have the power to change it. Inspiring and insightful. Ha! Yeah, right you are, Ken. I'm Charles Renton with my review WWE on A&E Biography, WWE Legends on Paige, who is now Saraya, Defender of Abuserverse in AEW. Boy, they didn't time the release of this particular biography episode well, did they? Okay, right out the bat, I stand by every single goddamn thing I have said recently about Saraya, Defender of Abuserverse, because, let's be honest, she's made a lot of questionable decisions, comments, and also standing by her very, very, very criminally sound boyfriend. I really think that's about the best thing I can say without getting banned. Ronnie Radke, that goddamn piece of shit, can't sing, can't do anything, looks like an emaciated skeleton from a goddamn college science class, but nevertheless, I'm going to put that to the side, and I'm going to talk about the fact that WWE decide, hey, we're just going to do a 1 hour piece on Paige, and also a 1 hour piece on Jerry Lawler, and a 1 hour piece on Charlotte and Yokozuna. Apparently those 2 episodes are coming up next week. I get why they did 1 hour on Paige, because besides her family history, and maybe diving in a little bit more into like her training and everything, they really couldn't have made this 2 goddamn hours, but they packed enough stuff in this. Granted, with commercials, it was, 45 minutes at the most, and they had to leave certain things out, and I'll talk about a few things they left out. But I also do want to say that anybody that's struggling with drug, alcohol abuse, issues, help is out there. I'm going to put the drug and alcohol abuse hotline in the description. Regardless of who you are, nobody should have to struggle through that ever. Help is out there. So, we see her on Twitch, and it is funny how she got to keep her third-party deal for the most part while she was out injured and off TV, while others lost their deals for a time. When Vince McMahon said, "We can't have anybody earning this much money while they're supposed to be out there wrestling, pal." Ha ha ha! God, that Vince McMahon impression gets a little more difficult for some reason. And we see clips of her match with AJ Lee. This is all in the beginning of the episode. And the British Indies and all that. And then we find out she was born in Norwich, England, or grew up in Norwich, England, or Norwich. I'm not actually sure how to pronounce it. I do apologize. The Knights of Wrestling, the Knights of Templar, the Knights of the Round Table. Knights of the Round was a fighting game. There was a whole lot of fun during the SNES days, but nevertheless. So, she was brought up in wrestling, literally. She talks about the fact that her dad got into wrestling. Her uncle got her dad into wrestling. He kind of reminded me a bit of like if Bushwhacker, Butch, I guess, or no, Luke. A combination of Butch and Luke decided to basically just have matches with furniture in British bars. And I mean, I'm not going to knock people. You promote where you can promote, but good God, there were like 50 people there, maybe. Her mother wrestled while pregnant with her, found that out, and that's why she jokes and also actually has a legit claim to the fact that she's been taking bumps since before she was born. And then we see the family pictures. It was cool to see this footage of the British Indies, even if it was a lot of garbage matches, because if you just have to involve furniture and everything, weapons and chairs and stuff like that, you could put on technical matches, or you could just beat the shit out of each other with no psychology. Nevertheless, indies, whatever, plenty of indies all over the world do that. Her and her brother chase each other with scissors and knives. This explains a lot, actually. And why become a vet? Apparently she wanted to become a vet, but she decided, I want to wrestle. And it's funny because she was technically a vet by the time she ended up retiring from the business, until she got to AEW and has been able to wrestle a handful of matches, if you want to call it that. Positive, let's be positive. 13 years old when she debuted in June of 2006. She was nervous, and she was wrestling in a 6-woman tag because her brother actually, she trusted her brother. She had only done work with her brother. And he dressed in a pink Power Ranger outfit, literally. Like, they actually show footage of this. And she took bumps with him and stuff like that. 15 years old, she's carving a name for herself in Europe, Turkey to gain experience, Italy, Denmark, Germany. It was cool to see some of this footage. This is cool shit. And she basically said she gave up her childhood for wrestling, never went to her prom. The documentary, Fighting With My Family. Rock would end up seeing this and being inspired to get his fingers into another project because The Rock is bound and determined to make a lot of money and also drink tequila. Can't do the eyebrow, can't do the eyebrow with The Rock's brand of tequila. Anyway, enough of that. If you can do the eyebrow raise, please let me know in the comments. So, WWE brought her over and her brother. They were impressed with her. They signed her, but not her brother. So I guess her brother has done British indie work. I don't really know because I don't know much about the British indies. So, 18 and out the door to work for WWE. She was emotional. She felt like she was picked on because of her experience. And the fact that a lot of girls basically didn't like her. It was like a snake pit, no step on snake. And then Norman Smiley chimes in a little bit. Norman Smiley's a great trainer and really an underappreciated talent in all honesty. Watch some WCW stuff with Norman Smiley. Even him doing the big wiggle, which, no, that was really something he did, and him doing the screaming Norman stuff. Norman could work. Norman was a hell of a goddamn worker. So anyway, we hear that she had to change in the shower room. Her peers would pick on her. Her dad basically said, stick it out, your big moment is coming. He was right. And then she got the name Paige from watching Charmed Rose McGowan before Rose McGowan lost her goddamn mind. I mean, if you've seen her Twitter or saw her Twitter in the past couple of years, she made some good points and also went up the goddamn rails on a crazy train. The anti-diva gimmick was born. I want to say at this point, I was a big fan of Paige. Loved Paige. Appreciate her. Thought she was great. And still looking back on this look, she had a good look. Had something where people really would appreciate a different look. I'm not saying she was the only one to ever do goth or different type stuff. Or do a darker, mysterious character. Victoria, a number of years before this. And others. I mean, Mickie James was a bit of a dark character, even though she was a wild, crazy, and the Psycho has won the title. But in hindsight, all the bumps that she took on the indies from 06 to when she got signed in like 2012, and all that stuff would catch up with her. She was the first NXT Women's Champion. July of 2013, she would hold it for 301 days. They would have her relinquish it after she beat AJ Lee the night after Mania 30 on the Raw after Mania 30. And then they would have a tournament. Natty and Charlotte would be in the finals. And then at the first takeover event, I think it was the first technical takeover event, even though Arrival counts as a takeover event, even though they didn't use that as the name. They just said NXT Arrival because it was the first WWE Network special. And WWE Network really had issues. That being said, Paige got, a text from DJ. She's like, who the hell's DJ? That's Dwayne Johnson. That's The Rock, you idiot. And wanting to do a movie about her. And this is all the way back in 2014 when he was in the writer's room and he was actually in, because he was part of Mania 30, if you remember. He was part of that thing with Hogan, Austin, and talking about how Hogan was happy to be back in the Silverdome, brother. In the Mania 30 weekend, her Raw debut beats AJ Lee. Zelina was all happy, said she was jumping up and down, and for her, falling off the first step of a ladder would be quite a high bar. So, then, it was a big deal. I mean, I do remember being really excited, and even seeing this stuff. Hard to believe it's almost coming up on 9 years since this goddamn shit. My God, I was 30 fucking 3 years old. Jesus goddamn Christ, that seems like a lifetime ago. And then commercial spots, the major push and everything, even though the Divas Championship looked like a goddamn Cracker Jack box prize, women were being taken a little more seriously, but honestly, Paige was a decent worker, experienced, but by the time Becky and Charlotte and Sasha and Bayley found their niche and found they were light years ahead of Paige. I'm not saying that Paige wasn't influential. I'm not saying that she wasn't. I'm not saying that she didn't inspire some others. She clearly did. But I'm not going to romanticize it and pretend like she was, the best ever. And then Total Divas, which I liked Total Divas at first. Remember watching the Natty Tyson Kidd wedding special, and it was cool to get interaction with various people watching that episode. And look, at first it was fine. It just, after a while, it got ridiculous. Like, it just got insane where it just kept going, and that went to total Bellas. Oh, boy. The Bellas talking, look, I said my piece about the Bellas. I feel bad for what they went through earlier in their lives. Their careers, never really cared for them. But I get why they chimed in on this, because they were part of, a couple of Paige's big moments. I mean, they were part of that tag match at Mania 31, which was AJ Lee's last WWE match. I think her last match. I don't think she's wrestled since. And the spotlight and the mistakes started to pile up. Raquel Welch, no, not the famous actress, not that one. A pink-haired friend of Paige's, who, good God, she's beautiful. But anyway, I digress. Raquel Welch, not the actress, chimes in. And then we get, if you don't like the world you live in, you have the power to change it. And then she had her neck injury in 2016. I do remember that and thinking, that was a rough bump. That looked difficult. And then there was talk, that she might be out for a bit with rehab. No, then she was out with serious surgery. She was also in a bad relationship with Alberto Del Rio at the time, now Alberto El Patron, now hopefully blacklisted from wrestling for how much of a piece of shit he was. They were both toxic for each other. I even remember saying when they proposed, or he proposed to her, this is going to be bad, and it was. And then drinking, pills, the sex tape stuff. Look, let me just say this. The fact that Paige was the only one that got made fun of, way up here, while Xavier and Maddox get a little bit of this stuff. Nobody should have been made fun of, but it should have been on an equal field if somebody was going to be made fun of. But you know what? It was a private thing that got leaked. That shouldn't have happened. That shouldn't have happened to her. She shouldn't have been shamed, as it were. I had to be careful with some things that I say. But unfortunately, drinking and pills and other stuff because of the injury, because of the stuff and all that, and bad friends that she had around her, led to her doing back-to-back wellness violations, which I thought at that time, many thought she was trying to get fired. She was back home. Her dad was telling her, look, people have sex. It's what they do. He was supportive. He was sorry she went through that, but he was supportive and like, you're going to get back on this. She got clean. She came back to have her return in November 2017. Then about a month later at a WWE live event, people blamed Sasha for causing Paige's injury, not realizing her neck was hanging on by a goddamn thread. And she had to retire a number of months later. You have to wonder what would have happened had she been able to take limited bumps and maybe had that association with Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville, which I totally forgot about. I totally forgot that was going to be something that was going forward. And then they finish up with her relationship with the college science room skeleton, Ronnie Radke, which just look up the criminal charges and the shit that he's done. Guy's a piece of shit. And hate to say it at this point, even though I have said plenty of good things about her, she has proven that she probably isn't that much better views-wise if she's going to continue to defend him. Now, she's in AEW doing what she's doing. They didn't mention that here, but did she leave a good mark in WWE? Sure. Were there things she could have done better? Sure. I'm sure she admits that. It's also funny that she mentioned in a promo, and I'll close with this, in AEW, oh, I finally have a boss that'll let me do what I want to do or say what I want to say. Or not shoot my ideas down. She was made the GM of SmackDown for a while. She was getting paid the length of her contract. And I don't know how much it was. She was getting paid the length of her contract until what? Sometime last year? Sometime last year. I don't remember the exact time that she got released or her contract expired. But she got paid all that time to appear on TV, do stuff, while still pretty goddamn young. There was always a chance to come back, and apparently WWE offered her matches. So, you don't leave, but honestly, if she had stayed in WWE and done that stuff, I don't think it really would have mattered. I mean, she could just go over and wreck shit over in AEW, because she's burned a lot of bridges and burned a lot of goodwill she's had with the fans. But as far as this documentary, it was good stuff. I still have not seen Fighting with My Family, so I'm sure everybody's going to roast me in the comments there because I love Florence Pugh. I'll watch that eventually. If you want me to review that, let me know in the comments. So, decent piece. I understand why this one was an hour because realistically they could have fleshed some things out, but what else could they really have talked about? Like, beginning, signing, rise, injury, crash, redemption. There you go. That's the story arc. Let's see what she does in AEW. Maybe she'll turn it around by getting away from the emaciated, whatever the hell he is, Ronnie Radke. But at this point, I doubt it. I think she pretty much has exposed who she is. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Renthlan. I'll see you soon.